Good day, and thank you for tuning in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. For all of our new listeners and viewers who are tuning in for the very first time, I'm Pastor Pope, and thank you for allowing us to come into your viewing environment. We are here with you, live broadcasting from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time to discuss whatever topics you might like to discuss, whatever issues of life you find challenging or that you find difficult to navigate. We are here because God is concerned about that which concerns you. And so every Monday through Friday from 12:30 p.m. until 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, you can view us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, RadioFreeNetwork.com Live. You can go to RadioFreeNetwork.com, click on radio. The drop box will appear. Click on the New Life link, and every broadcast is available to you, broadcasting live right here from the FijiWater.com sponsored studio in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast, which is brought to you by Fiji Water, Earth's finest water. You may already know that Fiji water comes from Fiji. However, did you know that it is created by nature, it is untouched by man? It starts as a tropical rainfall which slowly filters through layers of volcanic rock, where the water collects in a natural, sustainable artesian aquifer where it is bottled right at the source, free from human contact until you unscrew the blue cap. Fiji Water, Earth's finest water, will be delivered right to your front door when you subscribe for delivery. And you'll save money at FijiWater.com. This is not just ordinary water. This is Earth's finest water at FijiWater.com. And for those of you who continue giving on the Give segment of our app at New Life-Delaware, and those of you that have made a weekly or monthly commitment by giving on the link that is posted on Facebook, YouTube, and those who go to our contribution pages on our websites at NewLifeMinistriesInternational.com and NewLifeInternationalCDC.com. We thank you for your support and for your commitment as we fulfill our commitment to God to be here for you in 3D, the Daily Divine Direction broadcast. So I'm going to begin today by addressing a communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you and your siblings inherited your parents' home after their passing. However, two of you want to sell the home and two of you want to continue renting it out. And you want to know, what should you do? Okay, so here's the first thing that we always have to be mindful of. The fact is, this isn't something that the four of you should be having a conflict about. When in doubt, do nothing. And what I mean by that is, do your research, take the necessary steps, analyze the information you have available to you. But what you have right now is an asset. You have an asset that can be held by the four of you to continue renting out until you talk to an attorney. Now, here's the thing to be mindful of. We were in a real season where it was both a buyer's market, it was a seller's market and a buyer's market. And let me tell you what I mean by that. In case you haven't been on the broadcast previously, for all of our new listeners and viewers, there was a period of time, particularly during the pandemic, over those last couple of years and a little bit before the pandemic occurred, you were able to sell your home and get top dollar for your home as a seller. You were also able to get low interest rates as a buyer. So even though you might pay a little more for the home, the true value plus maybe a little premium, because you were getting a lower interest rate over, a 20-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage, 20-year mortgage, or 30-year mortgage, you really weren't going to suffer by purchasing at full market value because you were getting such a low interest rate. So, a lot of people were saying, well, it's a seller's market. Well, no, it wasn't just a seller's market. It was a seller's and a buyer's market, because you were essentially getting mortgage rates at free money. When I say that, meaning as long as you're invested in the stock market, if you're getting an 8% annual return on your investment and you're paying 3% for a mortgage, you've got a 5% net. If you're paying 4% mortgage, you've got a 4% net, because real estate is a tangible asset that will appreciate in value over time. And you have time, because if you're going to purchase, if you're going to sell it to someone and they're going to purchase over the next 15 to 30 years, depending on how long they mortgage the home, they're still going to receive an appreciated value. So it was truthfully a seller's and a buyer's market. Now, having said that, once interest rates began to go up, it then doesn't become a seller's market anymore, because you might not get full premium for your home, because buyers are paying a higher interest rate, and they're going to try and negotiate a little more because their interest rate is a little higher. So this is all part of the economic system. But you have an asset. They want to sell it because they think they're coming to the end of the seller season. I recommend that all of you sit down, not in conflict with one another, but that all of you sit down with a really good real estate attorney to give you all some guidance. I'm not your legal advisor and I'm not your financial advisor, so I'm not going to be able to tell you what you should do. What I am going to, as far as selling or renting it out, but what I can tell you is, if you sit down with a really good real estate attorney, preferably one at a mid-sized to larger firm, they'll be able to give you some good guidance on exactly what you need to do. Now, that's the first thing. Having said that, if you all keep the house and rent it out, you're going to have rental income coming in, but then you have to decide how that's going to be dispersed for one another. You've been doing it thus far. What you've been doing is you've been just putting the money aside, and that's a good thing to do. And let me go a little step further with that. You all could create a trust where all of the income from the property goes into the trust, so that over time you all can build some wealth, because you'll be able to invest that capital, or form an LLC. And there are things you can do, but you really need to sit down with a good real estate attorney. It'll cost you a little money, but it'll be worth it in the end. You'll have a clearer vision of what needs to be done. Now, having said that, if you sell the home and you each divide your portion equally, the one thing you want to do, and this is where most people make their mistake, they will take the capital and do something that they've always wanted to do. Well, that's not going to build wealth for you long term. That's only going to give you some immediate gratification, and when it's over, you'll have the memory. But what if your memory starts to fail? We don't think about these things because we don't think far enough ahead. We don't do a lot of forward thinking. The truth of the matter is, if you sell the property, if you make the decision that you're going to sell the property, and each of you are going to get 25% of the proceeds once it's all completed, everything is done, taxes are paid, you all are going to get 25% of the profit. You must take that profit and you must begin to invest it, particularly in the stock market. If you're not going to invest it in some other real estate transaction, if you invest it in some other real estate transaction, then you're going to minimize your capital gains tax. you have to realize that there are things you can do that are going to allow you to maximize that capital that you have for investment. So I really want you to understand how important it is. Now, some people will say, well, there's something I always wanted to do. It's on my bucket list and I'll have the money to do it, so I'd rather do that. That's not going to build wealth for you. That's only going to be a temporary fix. You'll check it off your bucket list. And the greatest things that you can ever place on, if you want to use the term, on a bucket list are things that you can do that will not cost you money. Those are the greatest things you can do. For example, I'll share this. I always wanted to run a marathon before I turned 50. I was 49 years old when I ran a marathon, my first marathon. Got the bug, I ran more since then, but I was 49 years old when I ran my first marathon. It was rewarding to me because it's something I always wanted to do. And let me rephrase that. Never really thought about it until probably I was 30. And then I said, before I turn 50, I want to run a marathon. Prior to that, I hadn't thought about that. And you might say, well, it costs you money to run a marathon. Yeah, it cost me, I think at the time it was $105. I could be wrong, but somewhere in that area. It wasn't a lot of money, but it was something, you can go out to dinner and spend that. But it was something I wanted to do, and it was really, my motivation for it was, I knew if I could run a marathon by my 50th birthday, it would mean that I was in good health. That was my thought process. Didn't think about all the things I was eating, but that was my motivation, was it would allow me to know that I was still in good health. And, because 50 is a big number. So I wanted to run it by the time I turned 50. So I was 49, I ran my first marathon. Those little things that we can do, they may cost us a little money, but it's not a lot of money. Like I said, you can spend $100 going out to dinner. But I was able to do something that I wanted to do, and it didn't cost me a lot of money. And since then I've run, as I said, I've run other marathons, and I still run today. I run. It's good to go out and just get my heart rate up for 4 miles or 5 miles, or I run I run some other races. The point I'm trying to make is you don't have to do things that are going to cost you a lot of money, when if you invest that same capital, you'll be able to build some wealth that will sustain you in your later years and allow you to have something to pass on to the next generation. So these are the things that we have to focus on. And what I'm going to say to you, and I know you said in your communication you're going to encourage your siblings to watch the broadcast so that whatever day I address this issue, they would be on. And so I welcome you all for tuning in, but I want to make sure that you are clear on this. Sit down with a good real estate attorney. Ask him to give you some sound advice on the timing. Do you sell now, or do you continue renting for the next 3 years, or do you continue renting the home out for the next 7 years? What is it that would be the best plan of action for that asset? Because you have an asset now, but what you have right now is a problem, because you all are creating a problem among yourselves. And you don't need to create a problem among yourselves. You need to realize that you're blessed that your parents left you their home so that the 4 of you would have an asset to be able to continue building some wealth. Because that's why they left it to you, so that you could continue building some wealth. So you have to decide. You have to decide with your brothers and sisters whether or not it's the best time to sell, or if it's time for you to continue renting out the property. And in order to do that, you need to speak with a good real estate attorney. This segment of the broadcast is brought to you by T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. So if you're not currently a T-Mobile customer, you may call or text on the T-Mobile call or text line at 267-992-1424. We will move you into our queue so that you may become a T-Mobile customer and experience America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. And if you auto pay by attaching a credit card to your account, you will receive a discount on your monthly bill at T-Mobile, America's largest, fastest, and most reliable 5G provider at no extra charge. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that your relationship with a friend has changed dramatically. You said every time you talk about doing anything lately, it ends in an argument before you go out. Let me say this to you. There's a couple of things that go on here. And one is that if you are having a consistent problem with a friend about doing things together, if it's causing you some brain damage, if it's causing you some anxiety and really disrupting your peace, you need to go out with different friends. That's not someone you need to go out with. You don't need to be hanging out with someone who's causing you a lot of anxiety and frustration before you go out, every time you go out. And here's the problem. You've outgrown your friend. And I'm going to just break it down for you and tell you what that implies. You see, your friend wants to go to the same places that you've always gone and hung out. Your friend wants to go to places where you used to go and drink cocktails and hang out, and you knew the other people that were there hanging out because you all hang out at the same club, you all hang out at the same places. You know, when you go out to eat and drink, you go out to the same places. That's what your friend wants to do. You have decided that you want a better quality of life. So now you're interested in going to museums. You're interested in going to, now getting back to the musical environment. You want to go to, hear the opera, the symphony. You want to do some cultural things now. You're at that place in your life where you want to try something different. And that's a good thing, because the intent of life is to grow, continue growing. Your friend hasn't grown. And because you want to go someplace different, and she's saying, well, I want to go and hang out with the same people you've always hung out with, that's why you're having a problem. Sometimes in life, there are people that we outgrow. And I'm going to give you an example of that. Think about growing from childhood to adulthood. We all start out born in this world. Some babies are longer than others. Some are larger than others. They weigh more than others. And then as they come into the world, they begin to continue growing. Some children develop faster than other children, meaning, and I'm particularly talking about their cognitive skills, their motor skills, even their language skills. Some children develop faster than others. And then, adolescence, and then puberty hits, and then we become of age and we graduate from high school. But all of those years between birth and age 18 Our bodies develop differently, our minds develop differently. Some people are going to be taller, some people are going to be shorter. Some people are going to have a more rapid cognitive development than others. Everybody grows at their own pace. Then we become adults. And what happens as adults is that we either develop poor habits or we develop rich habits. Now, I'm going somewhere with this. I want you to come along. Watch this. So, when we develop poor habits, it means that we're going to do things that are not going to be conducive for our continued growth as a human being. When we develop rich habits, we begin to enrich our lives. It doesn't mean that because you develop some poor habits that you can't begin to develop some rich habits. What that means is that at some point in time, somewhere between those 2 points, we make a decision. I don't want to continue developing poor habits, and I want to eliminate the poor habits I've already developed, which means that I have to develop some rich habits by enriching my life. And how do I do that? I look for methods where I look for places that I can make change and implement a new methodology. So that has to be the goal. What's happened is your friend wants to stay exactly where she is, doing exactly what she wants to do because she's still developing poor habits. And she's maintaining the habits that she's already developed. See, one of the things we have to do is we have to examine our behavior continuously. And we have to decide if I want a better quality of life, and this is going to kind of lead me into the next communication, but if I want a better quality of life, I have to make a conscious decision to make some changes. All of the poor habits that I've learned as a child and all of the poor habits I began to develop as an adult, I'm going to eliminate those habits and I'm going to develop some rich habits. I'm going to develop some habits to enrich my life, which is going to lead to a better quality of life. You want to start doing some different things because you're growing. She wants to keep doing what's familiar to her because she's not growing any longer. Her growth has been stunted by the world. Her growth has been confined to the environment in which she has always dwelled. So you have to decide that this is not someone that you want to go out with. You want to go out with people who want to do more in life, who are further on the journey of growth and development. How about that? I said yesterday in the sermon that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most of our time with. The majority of our time with. We're the average of those 5. You know, show me your network, I'll show you your net worth. You have to recognize that if you're going to continue making progress, you've got to be around different people. That doesn't mean you can't socialize with the people that you love who are doing the right thing. It just means that you have to seek out the opportunity to be in an environment that is starting to go to museums is going to do that for you. It's cultural. It gives you a different culture than the nightclub or the restaurant where everybody goes and hangs out and drinks and eats because it's the place to be seen. We've got to live to enrich our lives. And when we enrich our lives, we experience a better quality of life. That's the goal every day, is to have a better quality of life every single day. And so I'm going to encourage you to just do this. That particular friend, you can love her, you can invite her over to the house for dinner. You don't, just to check in with her, but you don't need to hang out with her because you're in two different places, in two different spaces right now. She wants to be in the same space, you want to be in a new space. Don't allow your friendship to continue to disrupt your psyche. It's time to move on and be an example to her that there's a better quality of life. This segment of the broadcast has been brought to you by Nike Golf. If you're a golfer like myself, go to Nike.com, type in the search bar, the word golf. You will see everything that Nike has available for you to enjoy the game of golf. They're a sponsor of our annual Achievers Golf Tournament. And if you are just in the market for athletic wear or gear, go to Nike.com. They have everything you could possibly need to enjoy your athletic endeavors. I also want to acknowledge our sponsor, Porsche Delaware. If you are in the market for one of the finest vehicles manufactured in the world, go to Porsche Delaware. See Mike Didio, General Manager. Tell him Pastor Pope sent you. He will make certain that you're taken care of. And if you've already owned a Porsche, it's the finest vehicle we've ever owned. If you're in the market for a Porsche, if you already own a Porsche of Delaware Service Department, Mike Adams, Service Manager, will make certain that you get taken care of. Tell him Pastor Pope said to come and see him, Mike Adams at Porsche of Delaware. I'm going to address another communication that came in from one of our listeners and viewers who indicated that you are dating someone who likes to rebel against the system. Interesting. However, he very rarely gets good results, and you have no interest in living that way. Here's the reality. The system has some flaws. Okay. And so do we all have some flaws. But the system is a system of order. God is a God of order. So that tells us that we shouldn't be rebelling against the system. You can, listen, in business you can disrupt. We had a conversation about this. Saturday I had to preach a eulogy in Philadelphia. My wife and I, on the way back, were having a conversation about Mark Cuban's new prescription drug company and how it's disrupting the industry. We've seen a lot of disruptors. We've seen Airbnb. We've seen Uber. We've seen Lyft. We've seen a lot of disruptors. Amazon. There have been companies that disrupt the status quo to try to enhance the quality of life for mankind. That has a purpose. Disruption for the sake of disruption is not a purpose. It's chaos. You disrupt to try to better society. You disrupt to improve and enhance the quality of life for mankind. You don't just rebel against the system because you're a rebel without a cause. So why would you want to live that way? God is a God of order, and order leads to a better quality of life. So you need to have a conversation with them if you're going to continue dating them. Otherwise, you need to move on. It's not to your benefit to be in a relationship with someone who is just someone who wants to rebel against the system. That's not going to enhance the quality of your life, it's going to disrupt the quality of your life. God is a God of order. The system may have its flaws, but it is the system that allows us to maintain some type of order. Now, I know things are a little out of order right now in our society because man has played its part. And we're all living among people who believe in disrupting for the sake of disrupting. But you want to live a better quality of life. Have that conversation, or if that's not the conversation he's willing to have, tell him, have a nice day. I'll see you when I see you.